Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. So one of technology's savviest observers and analysts in print and on television is a woman named Kara Swisher. And Kara has written for the Wall Street Journal. She co-founded Recode, and lately she's been writing opinion pieces for the New York Times. Now, the other day she did a piece, and this isn't surprising because we've all been weighing in on this issue. She's smarter about it than most people, I think. But she wrote it the other day about Facebook and the problems it seems to be having in terms of transparency, in terms of privacy issues, and in terms of the way it is, in so many ways, kind of violated the public trust. And she wrote specifically, in this case, about COO Sheryl Sandberg. Now, Sandberg is obviously a lot more than just the COO of Facebook, right? She wrote Lean In. Lean In was about women in leadership and management, and that helped to make her sort of a feminist icon, in addition to being somebody who was seen as being at the top of her game when it comes to leadership and management in business and in the culture. But with Facebook facing a lot of criticisms these days, and frankly, Sandberg admitting some complicity in terms of some of the mistakes that they have made, there have been some calls for Sandberg to step down or be dismissed from her role at Facebook. Now, this might be appropriate, right? And certainly I have no idea if she should step down at this point. And Swisher doesn't seem to know whether or not she should step down at this point. But there is one thing that Swisher does know, which is that Sandberg seems to be being held to a different standard than Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook. And one of the things she writes is that, he does not seem to be facing the same kinds of calls for his removal. And yet she writes, he's the one with the power at Facebook. He's its top executive, its visionary founder, and most of all, its controlling shareholder. But no matter what his responsibility, he is seen as unkillable, unfireable, and untouchable. And what she writes here is, hey, listen, this is a lesson from that in terms of what goes on in the tech industry in general, right? Men are held to a different standard than women, and that people tend to hold women responsible while men are given a pass, okay? Because they're seen as being the visionaries and not the people who make things happen. And at the end of the day, the person you're going to find responsible is the person who makes things happen. Now, when it comes to Facebook, you got to keep something in mind. This is a company that gave a guy named Andy Rubin $90 million in a severance payment, and he left the company because of a sexual harassment, sexual misconduct problems. Okay, if he killed somebody, what would they have given him? $300 million? I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Now listen, Sandberg isn't arguing that. Swisher isn't arguing that Sandberg shouldn't be held responsible because of her gender. She's actually just arguing that no matter what your gender, you have to be held to the same standards. Now, that shouldn't be a radical notion, but it is. And what's often true in tech, she writes, is that men are seen as key players and women are just not seen as crucial to a company's success. That inequity has become a theme of a wide range of employment issues across Silicon Valley of late, including the phenomenon of, and this is a new one to me, underleveling, which is hiring women and people of color at a lower level than they deserve. And I think this is kind of interesting. It may be get more of the spotlight right now in tech because tech tends to get a bigger spotlight. But I wonder how much of that is happening elsewhere in business, in other kinds of companies, especially when the people in charge of doing the hiring are white men, and white men, more than ever, are feeling a little threatened because of the demographic changes taking place in society. But there was another passage from her column that I found really compelling. And she was quoting a woman named Stephanie Parker, who's a former Google employee. And she was saying to a bunch of women tech employees, and I quote, "Where do you think Google got that $90 million they used to pay out Andy Rubin? They got it from every time you worked late, every promotion you didn't get because they said, there's not enough budget. You have to wait. It's from every contractor who came to work sick because they had no paid time off. These are the conscious decisions that the company is making, and abusers are getting rich off our hard work. It's just not fair, and they completely know what they're doing." And you know something? That's not just a tech issue. That's an issue at any company, where the people at the top feel that they deserve to feather their nests while they do everything they can to cut costs and benefits and things like that among the people on the front lines who are actually getting a lot of the work done and who determine whether or not a company is or is not successful. They simply do not believe that a 21st century business model that's going to be sustainable is going to be one where everybody has a nest, where everybody feels invested in the company, and where the company invests in everybody. That, in my view, is critically important. But there are a lot of companies out there not doing that, and I think they're going to feel the negative effects long term. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.